We continue now at the top of Daf Kov Zayin Amud Beis in Mesechet Yevamos. This is Yevamos Daf 107b. On the previous summit, the Gemara was asking, why do we make a distinction between a situation where you have a mimer, where we say in that case, according to Beis Hillel, she can do miyun. Let's say you have a girl that's a minor, so she can do miyun and undo the mimer. But when it comes to the zeka, that bond that happens automatically when her husband dies, so that we say she cannot undo with miyun. So the Gemara had answered that the difference is that one is bal karcha, one is not bal karcha. In other words, zeka is against her will, therefore she can't undo that. But when it comes to mimer is something that's only willingly, so therefore since it's only done at her will, so therefore she can undo it with miyun. But the Gemara asks that doesn't make sense, because what if they would actually have yibum? What if they'd actually have the act of relations? The halach over there is that is against her will, but umatzia akra, she's able to undo that. As Rashi over here says, umatzia akra shalotei tzricha get lebiyaso, she does not require a get. Miyun is enough. To amri Beis Hillel enes biyavam dumya debal, because that's what Beis Hillel say. Beis Hillel say that she can do miyun with the yavam the same way that she can do miyun with her original husband. And so the Gemara instead gives a different distinction. Elabia umaymer, rather, when it comes to both bia and mimer, dehu ka'avid, that he's the one that does something to make those take effect. So in those cases, matzi akra, so she can refuse it, doing miyun, and she can uproot those things. But zeka, but the initial bond that happens when her husband dies, again, we're talking about a situation of a girl that is a minor who was married, and then that husband dies, so then there is a zeka to the brother-in-law, so the rachmana ramallah, so that's really coming from the Torah. There is no action that he took. It's an automatic zeka, it's an automatic bond. So lo matzi akra, so that she's not able to undo with miyun. And the Gemara continues now with another opinion in terms of how miyun works by this girl when it comes to the yavam. Ula Amar Ula says, Mima enes af lezekaso. It's not true what we said in the previous summit. The miyun works, not only does the miyun work for bia, and not only does the miyun work for the mimer, but it works to undo the zeka as well. And the Gemara explains, my time, what's the reason? Nisue kamoy ka'akra. The reason, according to Ula, is because really what is miyun? Miyun is uprooting the original marriage. As we said before, the zeka bond that exists between the widow and the yavam really is just a continuation of her original marriage. We say that original marriage continues through this bond with the brother-in-law. That's what the yibum process is. So therefore over here, just like she can do miyun with the original husband, so she's allowed to do miyun now, even in the situation of zeka, she's just undoing the original nisuin. And the Gemara continues, Eisvei Rava Ula. So Rava asked the following question from a Brisa on Ula. Again, Ula is saying there's miyun is possible even with a zeka. The Brisa says, Kol sheyechola l'may, in any situation where, let's say, you have a girl who's a minor and she could in theory do the miyun, she could in theory refuse the marriage. Velo miyana, but she does not refuse the marriage. So now she's married, and let's say it's a situation where she is an erva, a situation of erva to the yavam. In other words, she was married originally, and now she falls to yibum to the yavam, and it's a situation really where she is an erva in theory to the yavam, and she could refuse the whole thing. She could undo the whole thing, but she doesn't undo it. So the halach is tzarasa choletzes v'lo mesiyah emes. The co-wife still has the status of a tzaras erva. She's not the tzara. The co-wife is still not allowed to do yivam. She can only do chalitza. And so now Rava asks Anula v'amai, but why is this true? Tamoyin hashta, let her do miyun right now. In other words, she didn't do miyun when she was married to the original husband who died, and right now there is a zeka band to the yavam, but let her do miyun right now on that zeka band. V'tiakarinu l'nisui kamoy, and according to Ula, that should undo the original marriage as if she was never married to her original husband that died, to the brother that died. V'tisyavim tzarasa, and then the co-wife should be allowed to do yibum. She shouldn't be considered a tzaras erva at all. She's not a co-wife of erva at all, because retroactively we're undoing the entire marriage to the girl that was a minor, and so you don't have a situation here of tzaras erva, and let the tzara let her do yibum. And so the Gemara answers, Tzaras erva shani. No, when it comes to Tzaras erva, it's actually different, even though in general, the way that miyun works is it undoes the original marriage, but we're not going to allow that by Tzaras erva over here, by Yibam. Why? The Tani Rami Bar Yechezkel, because Rami Bar Yechezkel taught as follows. He said, Miyano bebal. Let's say you have a situation where a girl refuses her husband. They're talking about, again, a girl who's a minor. She refuses, she undoes the marriage to that husband. So Muteris Laviv, the halacha is, it's as if she was never married to that man, and she's actually now allowed to marry his father. Even though in general, if a woman is married to a man, she cannot go ahead and separate from that man and marry the father. That's considered erva. But over here by miyun, it undoes the whole thing retroactively. It's as if there was never a marriage. She can now marry his father. However, biyavam, but let's say you have a situation where a girl does miyun with the yavam, with the brother-in-law, so in that case, asura la'aviv. In that case, even though it should be the same thing, it should undo the entire marriage from the beginning retroactively. But there we say no. By the yavam, we say she's still asur to his father. Why? Because we see b'shas nefila, at the time that she falls to yibum, near is kikala, so it appears as though she is this father's daughter-in-law. In other words, people will view this, they won't realize that you're undoing the entire thing from the beginning. People will think she really fell to Yavam, she really fell to this brother-in-law, and that she was really married to this brother-in-law. It looks like then afterwards, if she's going to go ahead and she's going to do me, and it looks like she's marrying her father-in-law if she marries his father. So therefore, by the case of Yibam, it's just different because it just looks worse. So hachanami, so here also, b'shas nefila, nearest kitzaras bito. In this case, the same thing is true. By the co-wife also, even if you're going to say that they're going to go and they're going to undo the original marriage, the girl who is a minor, who's the erva, she's going to go undo it through a miyun process, and therefore you'll say the co-wife really should be allowed to do yibum because she's not tzaras erva, but it appears that she is tzaras erva. People are not going to realize that everything's been undone from the beginning. It's going to appear you have a situation here of tzaras erva. She looks like tzaras bito, she looks like the co-wife of his daughter, and therefore that co-wife as well, she should do chalitza, she should not do yibum. And Rashi over here explains, Nisuin kamoy akra, again, this was the opinion of Ula, that when you actually do miyun, you're undoing the original marriage, even in a situation of a yavam. B'shuvein kanzeka, you're actually undoing the entire bond, because you undo the original marriage to the brother, to the husband who died, and therefore there is no bond at all. That's why, according to Ula, the miyun even works for the zeka. And Rashi continues, Kol sheyechola l'mayin. Again, the Brisa said in a situation where she could have done miyun, but she did not do miyun, so her co-wife is going to do chalitza, not yibam. It was again talking about a situation of tzaras erva. So Rashi says with parakama, in the first parak, the case is as follows: Bito ketano hanesu l'achiv. The case is his daughter, who is a minor, is married to his brother. V'lo kibel avia kiddushin. Now Rashi says the case over here has to be where the father is alive, yet somehow or another it's not the father who is accepting the kiddushin on her behalf. Usually by a minor, if the father is alive, then the father accepts her kiddushin. It's a doraisa kiddushin. But again, this case is a case of miyun, where she's going to be able to do a refusal. So how is it that her father didn't accept the kiddushin, but he's alive? The case could be as follows: Kigon sheisia avia tchila. Let's say her father married her off la'acher to somebody else. V'niskarsha, she was divorced. At that point in time, she leaves the reshus of her father. V'hi yisoma b'chayav. She's actually called an orphan, even though her father is alive. She's not really an orphan, but she's an orphan in the sense that she's not under the reshus of the father. V'yachola l'mayin. So it's such a girl, if she gets married now to his brother, to the father's brother, she actually is allowed to do miyun in such a case. V'lo miyan abo. Now she did not do miyun in that case. She did not refuse the marriage. V'meis, and then he dies. Her husband, the brother, he dies. So now she's falling to yibum to her own father. That's the case over here. So now tzarasa choletzes. So we say over here at this point in time, she didn't do miyun to her husband, so the co-wife has to do chalitza. She'ena tzaras habas lihi poter mishum tzaras erva. Now she's not totally poter. Usually tzaras erva, they don't do yibam or chalitza. So over here, why is she doing chalitza? Well, she's not really the co-wife of the daughter, because that daughter was just a minor. So therefore, it's not a real tzaras erva. Ho'al v'abas yichola l'mayin, since it was a case where she could have done refusal. Einon nisu and gemur, and that wasn't a real marriage. V'lo mesyavemes, but she can't do yibam either. Ho'al v'lo miyano habas. But because at the end of the day there wasn't miyun done, so really the daughter was married, and really the daughter has sort of, so to speak, fallen to yibam to her own father. So therefore it's sort of tzaras erva, sort of not tzaras erva, and that's why the halacha she does chalitza and not yibam. So then the Gemara asks, that's what Rava asked according to Ula, but if that's the case, why not just do the miyun now, even after her husband died? It all works retroactively anyway. And the Gemara answered, tzaras erva shani. No, by tzaras erva it's different. The afagav mahani miyun l'katana, even though normally a miyun would work for a minor, mahani miyun l'katana yevama bi'alma l'mepek below chalitza, and that works to undo the chalitza, lo mahani l'gabe erva. So even though in general, like Ula said, it works retroactively, it undoes everything, the miyun, but it doesn't work in terms of the tzaras erva situation. And miyana bi'avia shehu yevama l'mahavet tzarasum muteres liyavam. We don't say, well, if she does the miyun to her father, so then that's going to undo everything from the beginning, and now all of a sudden the co-wife is mutter to marry the yavam. The Tani Rami Bar Yechezkel, because Rami Bar Yechezkel had the following case: Ketana shemiyana bebal. The halach is in general, if a ketana does miyun with her husband, muteres linasei lo aviv, she can marry his father. Dakratini l'nisuin, she's totally undone the nisuin. nisuin. V'havi kanusa mafuta. She's no different than an anusa and a mafuta. There is no real marriage over here. The fact, let's say, she had relations is irrelevant. That's no different than an anusa, a girl who was raped or a girl who was seduced. Avol meis ba'ala v'lo miyanabo. But now let's say you have the case like this: her husband dies. She never did miyan. Umiyana biyavam. Now she does the miyan with the brother-in-law. Afagav denafka below chalitza. Even though that miyan is effective and she's able to get out of the marriage with no chalitza. Alma nisui kamoy akrat. So we see the same idea as ula. It undoes the entire original nisuin. Afilu achi. Nevertheless, asur l'avim. In that case, she becomes forbidden to his father. Because when you're dealing with a case of yibam already, it already appears as though this is her father-in-law. If she already fell to the brother-in-law based on the death of the marriage of that first, based on the death of the first husband that she married, and now she has to do miyan from the brother-in-law. Now already she appears to be the daughter-in-law again of this man, of the father of her husband, and therefore in this particular case we don't allow it. So even though she really is undoing, in our case as well, she's undoing the original marriage, but nearest tsarasa ketzaras bito, but it appears as though her co-wife is the co-wife of his daughter, because at the end of the day, that original marriage of the brother was good enough to cause the yibam, to cause her to fall to yibam. Therefore, again, it appears it doesn't look as though everything's been uprooted retroactively, and therefore it is a problem in this case of tsaras erva. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav. Rav says, Miyana bazel. Let's say you have a situation of a girl that's a minor and she does miyan with one of the brothers. She falls to Yivam and there's a number of brothers, so if she does miyan with one of them, Asura lazeh, she's then forbidden to the other brother, the second brother as well. She becomes forbidden. Why is that the case? It's the same thing as, let's say she would receive a get. Let's say you have a situation of Yibam where a girl receives a get from one of the brothers. That's the same halacha. Balas haget. Let's say she receives a get. Lav kevon de itzra lo lechad. Isn't it true that once she becomes forbidden to one, meaning whoever gave her the get, whatever brother gives her the get, she actually becomes forbidden to that brother in Ibam, and she actually becomes forbidden to all the remaining brothers as well. So hachanami lo shna, so to here by miyan, it's the same thing. When she does miyan with one of the brothers, it's no different than receiving a get from one of the brothers, and therefore she becomes forbidden to all of the brothers. That is Rav's opinion. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says, Miyana bazeh muteres lazeh. Now, if she does miyan with one of the brothers, she's still mutter to marry the other brothers. V'lo damya lebalas haget. It's not similar to a case where she receives a get. Balas haget hu de ka'avid ba'abayad, the balas haget. He's the one doing the ma'isa. That brother is doing it, and therefore he has the power to say, I'm giving you the get, and now not only are you forbidden to me, you're forbidden to all of the brothers. But hacha hi ka'avda be. But here, by miyan, she's the one that does the miyan to him, and there's a different idea. Da Amra, what she's saying is, Lo ra'ina bach v'lo tzavina bach. I don't want you. In other words, I don't want to marry you in particular. Bachu de lo ra'ina, habechav rachrina. I don't want you, but maybe I want one of the other brothers. Maybe I want to marry one of your brothers, and therefore the miyun doesn't make her forbidden to the other brothers. Again, this is the opinion of Shmuel. And Rav Asi says, miyano bozeh. No, even more than that. If she refuses, even if she does a refusal to that one brother, muteres afilulo, she's still mutter to that brother. She could change her mind and say she wants to marry that brother. It doesn't create any prohibition to that particular brother. The Gemara now says, Leima Reb Oshia Svirale. Now let us say that Rav Asi is really following Reb Oshia. Reb Oshia was the one in the previous Amud. Reb Oshia was the one that says that miyun does not work by zeka. The miyun can work to undo a mimer, but it doesn't work to undo the zeka bond that exists with her and the brothers. So let us say that he follows Reb Oshia. Reb Asi is really saying the same thing. The miyun isn't effective, and that's why she's mutter even to him. So maybe he holds like Reb Oshia, Da'amar Eina Mima Enes, Lezekaso, that there is no miyun in terms of the zeka. Maybe that's exactly what Rav Asi is saying. And the Gemara says, Bechad Yavam Hachanami Dematzia Akra. No, it could be that if there was only one brother-in-law, maybe she could undo it. In other words, it could be that maybe Rav Asi says, if there was only one brother-in-law, there existed only that bond, maybe Rav Asi would disagree with Reb Oshia and say that the miyun actually works to undo the zeka. But Hacha B'shnei Yevam and Askinan. But here Rav Asi's case is a little different than Reb Oshia, because Rav Asi is specifically talking about a situation where there's more than one possible brother brother-in-law that she could do Yibam with. There's Shnei Yevamim, there's two or more. De'ein mion l'chatzi zeka. So it could be what Rav Asi is saying is there the mion is not effective because it's only a chatzi zeka, it's only half a bond. She has a bond with every potential brother-in-law that she might do Yibam with, and to do mion on a chatzi zeka, that Rav Asi is saying is not effective, even though it could be that Rav Asi disagrees with Rav Oshia, and Rav Asi would say, unlike Rav Oshia, Rav Asi would say that if it was just a full zeka, there may be the mion, you could undo a full zeka. And the Gemara continues, Ki also Ravin, when Ravin came, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he said that Rabbi Yochanan said, Miyano bazeh, if she does miyan with this brother, muteres la'achin, she is mutter to the other brothers, velo hodulo. Now, even though Rabbi Yochanan said she's mutter to the other brothers, but they did not admit to what Rabbi Yochanan said. The sages did not agree with Rabbi Yochanan. Gemara says, who are these sages that did not agree? Man lo hodulo, who's the one that disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan? And so the Gemara says, Amar Abaya, Abaya says Rav. Rav is the one who disagrees, because again, as we said before, Rav was the first shita we brought over here. So Rav said, Miyan o bazeh, asura lazeh. Rav said, if you do miyan with one, then you're asur to the other one. And again, over here it says, Miyan o bazeh, muteres la'achin. So Abaya is saying Rav disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan. Rava Amar, Rabbi Oshia. Rava says, no, it's Rabbi Oshia that disagrees, because Rabbi Oshia says that the miyan doesn't work at all when it comes to a zeka, doesn't undo the zeka bond whatsoever. Therefore, the miyan is like nothing, and she's actually muteres not only to the other brothers, she's muteres even to him himself. That's why Rav Oshia would disagree with Rabbi Yochanan. The Amri lo Rav Asi, and some people say it's Rav Asi who's the one that would disagree with Rabbi Yochanan. Again, it's the same basic idea. Rav Asi says that miyana bazeh muteres afilu lo. She says that if she does miyan to this brother, she's muter even to that brother that she did the miyan with. And again, Rabbi Yochanan was saying miyana bazeh is only muteres to the other brothers, but not muteres to the brother that she did the miyan with. And Rashi over here explains that there is a difference between the version that says that it's Rabbi Oshia who disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan and the version that says that it's Rav Asi who disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan as follows. Rabbi Oshia lo hodelo, Rabbi Oshia does not agree with Rabbi Yochanan. Midakam Rabbi Yochanan muteres la'achin. Rabbi Yochanan's phrase was, again, if she does miyan with one brother, she's muter la'achin to the brothers. Afagav diyu gufe nami v'mashma. According to this version, says Rashi, actually the word achin includes the one that she did miyan with also. Meaning, according to this version, Rabbi Yochanan was saying miyan muteres to all the brothers, even to the brother that she did miyan with. Umiyu i'ika achin in, but nevertheless, it's still not like Rav Oshia. Rav Oshia also said she's muter to everyone, even the one she did miyan with, but that's still not identical to Rav Oshia. Why, says Rashi? Because it's only true if there's more than one brother. To have a miyan l'chatzi zeka kiravasi, because that's how Rav Asi said also, miyan doesn't work when there's a chatzi zeka, if you have more than one brother. Aval b'chad yavam, but according to Rabbi Yochanan, let's say there would only be one brother-in-law, the miyan of zeka shlema, where the miyan is effective, she's doing miyan in a full zeka, asura, she would be asur in that case, according to Rabbi Yochanan, according to this version, ul Rabbi Oshia, but we know that according to Rabbi Oshia, afila b'chad yavam nami sharia, dein miyan l'zeka. According to Rabbi Oshia, even if there was just one yavam, and she did miyan to only that one yavam, still should be permitted to that one yavam, because according to Rabbi Oshia, there's no miyan for zeka at all. So in other words, according to this first version, where Rava said Rabbi Oshia disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan, the idea is Rabbi Oshia says that miyan never works when it comes to a situation of yavam. Even if there's just one yavam, the miyan doesn't work. Rabbi Yochanan was saying, no, the miyan doesn't work if there's more than one brother. But if there's one brother, Rabbi Yochanan might agree with Rav Asi that the miyan would actually be effective. And then there was the second version, V'amri lo Rav Asi. Some say Rav Asi actually disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan. How would that work? Meaning Rav Asi nami lo hodelo. Meaning even Rav Asi would not agree with Rabbi Yochanan. V'chol sheken Rav Oshia. Of course Rav Oshia would disagree, because according to this understanding, the Rabbi Yochanan davka la'achin amar. According to this understanding, Rabbi Yochanan is saying she's only permitted to the other brothers, v'lo, but not permitted to him. According to this version, in other words, Rabbi Yochanan was saying she's not permitted to him, but she still is permitted to the other brothers. Rav Asi would say, no, as long as there's more than one brother, so then the miyan is not effective, she's permitted to him as well. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Beis Shammai omrim b'fanav v'chulu. It said Beis Shammai, again, they say that miyan can only be in front of the husband, whereas Beis Hillel say it can be in front of the husband or not in front of the husband. Tanya, we learned in a brayso, so Amru lehen Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. So Beis Hillel said to Beis Shammai, Valo Pishon hagamol, but Pishon the camel driver, miyana ishto shelo b'fanav. There was miyan, his wife did miyan, and it was not in front of him. It's a proof it doesn't have to be b'fanav. Amru lehen Beis Shammai le Beis Hillel. So Beis Shammai said to Beis Hillel, Pishon hagamol b'mida kfusha mad Hadad, Pishon, the camel driver, so he measured with a defective standard. It means to say he didn't act appropriately in the marriage in the first place. Therefore, the Chachamim, they measured back to him also with that same standard. In other words, they allowed her to do miyun not in front of him because of the way he was acting in the marriage. The Gemara explains, midaka'achal piri, from the fact that he did something improper. What was he doing? He was obviously consuming her payros from the nichsei malug in an improper fashion. So pshita nesuahi. So then it seems that she was a married woman. So it sounds like Beis Shammai was saying, we're talking about a married woman. Now Beis Shammai was the one that said, "V'amri Beis Shammai nesua lo mamana." But didn't Beis Shammai say that a married woman, who is a married girl rather, who's a minor, is not able to do miyun at all? So how could Beis Shammai say we're talking about a situation of payros where he acted inappropriately in terms of the payros? That would mean she was an asua. That would mean there's no miyun anyway in that case. The Gemara answers, no, Trei Kitri Avdu Bei. The Chachamim, the Chazal, they said in that case that there were 2 knots that they made for him, meaning to say, since he acted inappropriately, you're right. Normally a girl who's a minor, who's an asua, should not be allowed to do miyun, but the Chachamim said since he acted inappropriately, therefore she will be allowed to do miyun. That's Kitri number 1, that's the first knot. And then Trei Kitri, there was a second knot. Not only did they allow her to do miyun, they allowed her to do miyun not b'fanav, not in front of him. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Beis Shammai omrim b'fnei Bezdin v'chulu. Beis Shammai say that miyun takes place in front of Bezdin, and Beis Hillel say it could be in front of Bezdin or not in front of Bezdin. Gemara says, Tanan Hasam, we learned in a Mishnah over there, this is a Mishnah in Sanhedrin, HaChalitza v'hamiyunin bishlosh, it says that when it comes to Chalitza and miyun, you need 3 people. So the Gemara says, Man Tana, who's the Tan of that Mishnah? Amar Rabba says, Beis Shammai, that Tan is obviously Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai say you need a Bezdin, and Beis Shammai therefore say you need 3 people. Beis Hillel say you don't need a Bezdin, you don't need 3 people. Abaye Amar Abaye says, no, afilu tema Beis Hillel, you could even say that Mishnah is Beis Hillel. Arkan lo kamri Beis Hillel ela delo beinan mumchin. All that Beis Hillel mean over here is that you don't need experts to sit on the Bezdin. Aval shlosha binan, but 3 people you still need. Beis Hillel admit to Beis Shammai that you need 3 people, and that's how Beis Hillel can be the author of that Mishnah in Sanhedrin. Kedetanya, we learned this in a Brisa as well. Beis Shammai omrim bifnei Bezdin, Beis Hillel omrim bifnei Bezdin, Shalo bifnei Bezdin. Beis Shammai say in front of Bezdin, Beis Hillel say it can be in front of Bezdin, not in front of Bezdin. Eilu ve'elu modim, but both admit shetzarach shlosha, that 3 people are required. And the Brisa continues, Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon machshir b'shnayim. Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda and Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon say even 2 people is okay. Amar Rav Yosef bar Menyume, Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Yosef bar Menyume says in the name of Rav Nachman, halacha ka'oso hazug, the halacha is like that pair of Tanoim, that even 2 people are sufficient. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Beis Shammai omrim temoyin v'chulu. Beis Shammai say that she does the refusal, and then when she becomes an adult, she does the refusal again. So the Gemara asks, but didn't she already refuse 1 time? Why does she have to refuse twice? Amar Shmuel, so Shmuel says, tagdil v'tomer rotzani b'miyunim harishonim. What it really just means is, she gets older, and when she becomes mature, she says that I want to uphold my original miyun. She's not doing miyun a second time, she's just upholding what she originally did. Ula Amar Ula says, Tarti Katani, you have to read it as 2 separate statements. Rashi over here says, Tarti Katani lav lemahader lemoin zimna achrisi. It's not saying again that she's upholding or doing another miyun. Ela tarti mili ninu. The way you read it is 2 separate things. Mima'enes umamtenes milayores la'achrat shetagdil. Either she does miyun now and then she has to wait to be betrothed to somebody else. She has to be an adult for that. Kadesh lo tachzer u'tamayim, because if she's going to be betrothed earlier, she might do a second refusal, which we don't allow. It's a moin b'sheni. We don't allow a second refusal. Oh, or she does have another option. If she wants to get married, she could actually do miyun to her husband and then actually get married to somebody else. Because it happens to be, Beis Shammai say that an asu is not able to do miyun. So that's another way out of it. What she can do is she can do miyun and then she can get married, not just betrothed, not just an erison, but she can have an asu and then there won't be a second miyun anyway. And so Beis Shammai would agree to that. That's what the Gemara over here says. Ula amar tarti katani. Ula says you have to read it as 2 separate solutions that she has. Either she can do the refusal, become an adult, and have an erison. Or what she can do is do a refusal, and then she can actually marry immediately, even as a minor, because then there will not be a second miyun, because according to Beis Shammai, there's no miyun on an isuin. The Gemara says, according to Ula, I understand, it means until she gets older, or she can get married. That's what it means, vitinase. But according to Shmuel, it shouldn't say tinase. What it should say over there is ad shetagdil, she gets older, and she says she upholds the original miyun. It shouldn't say anything about a second miyun, it's just upholding the first miyun. And to that the Gemara says, Kasha, indeed it is difficult how you read the Mishnah according to Shmuel. And we should just note over here that the Mesoras Hashas puts in the word utemoin, because again, according to Uli, you have two options. Either she waits till she's an adult in order to have an erisin, or what she could do is she could do miyun v'tinase, and again, she could have an isuin immediately. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Eizuhi katana shetzricha l'mayin. What is considered a minor that she even needs to do miyun to get out of the marriage? Kol shisiua ima v'yachio l'daita. It would be any case where her mother or her brother marries her off willingly. If it was at her will, so then in order to get out of the marriage, she does miyun, she officially refuses the marriage. However, says the Mishnah, hisiua shelo l'daita. Let's say they try to marry her off against her will. So in that case, eina tzricha l'mayin. In that case, she doesn't even need to refuse. She can walk away from the marriage even without a miyun. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Chanina ben Antigna Somer, Rabbi Chanina ben Antigna says, Kol tinokes she'ina yichola lishmor kiddusha. Any child, any girl who's not old enough to watch over her kiddushin, in other words, she was given money, let's say for the kiddushin, and she's not even old enough to keep track of that money, so eina tzricha l'mayin. She does not need miyun, she can just walk away from that marriage. That marriage is nothing even in the first place. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Rabbi Eliezer says, Ein ma'isa katana klum. The deeds of a girl who is a minor are nothing. She's never considered like she's married because she's a katana. Elakamafuta, she's no different than a girl who is seduced. And the Mishnah continues, Bas Yisrael a Kohen. Therefore, let's say she's a Bas Yisrael who marries a Kohen. Again, according to Rabbi Eliezer, Lo tocha b'truma, she cannot eat truma because she's not really considered married. And Bas Kohen li Yisrael, let's say she's a Bas Kohen who marries Yisrael, who normally, because she marries Yisrael, she cannot have truma any longer. But tocha b'truma, again, it's not considered a marriage. She's still considered the Bas Kohen, and she's still allowed to have truma. Rashi over here explains, in Maisa Katana Ela Kemafuta. Again, according to Rabbi Eliezer, the deeds of a katana are nothing. She's like a seduced woman. Kedekatani, as it explains in the Mishnah, Bas Yisrael a Kohen lo tochal. Again, if she's a Bas Yisrael, marries a Kohen in this fashion, and she's a katana, she can't have truma. Techamisha lo nisas dami, because again, it's as if she was never married at all. And the Mishnah continues, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, Kol ha'kava shehi min ha'ish ki ilu hi ishto. Any situation where it's held back from the man's side, she's considered to be his wife. Kol ha'kava she'ena min ish. But if it doesn't come from the man, ki ilu eina ishto, then she's not considered to be like his wife. Rashi over here says, Kol ha'kava means kol mashimu keves etzlo b'shvilo. Anytime where she's held to him, by him, ki ilu hi ishto, then it's considered like she's his wife. Over Gemara Mefarish Mai, the Gemara is going to explain exactly what Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov means. In other words, what does he mean to say an akava that is from the man, as opposed to an akava that is not from the man? And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda says, Ve'amri lo v'masni satana. Some say this was taught in a brisa, but Rishona Yukosvin get miyun. And originally, when they would write a document of refusal, they would say as follows: Lo re'ina be, v'lo tzavina be, v'lesana boilis nas v'lei. I don't want this person. I don't desire him. I don't want to be married to him. But kevan dechazu denafish dibura. But then they saw there's too much words, there's too much writing, it's too lengthy, this get miyun. So Amri, so they said, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kovches Amud Aleph.